Good morning, St. Francis, and good morning, people of God. It is Friday, December the 3rd, 2021, Friday of the first week of Lent, but also today we celebrate one of our Advent saints. It is the memorial of St. Francis Xavier, the great Jesuit missionary to the Far East, to China, to Japan. Again, in the 1500s, Francis Xavier sets out, one of Ignatius of Loyola's first followers, sets out to bring the gospel to these lands that had been basically just opened up more. They were opened up in the 1200s or 1300s, but more opened up to European trade and European exchanges, whether for good, for ill. That's another kind of thing to worry about. But the wonderful thing about Francis Xavier is that he was able to meld together religious traditions that were both Japanese and Chinese with the traditions of Christianity. And so Christianity begins to flourish, begins to take root in those lands. However, Jesuits come along, and Dominicans too, and make a mess of all of that, because for some strange reason we were very bothered by all of that, and so we put an end to it and basically set Christianity's presence in the Far East back hundreds of years. Sometimes Franciscans do good things, sometimes they don't. Sometimes Jesuits do good things, sometimes they don't. But again, sometimes it is our own fear that what God is doing, we need to control. And being able to understand how God does things in God's own time is one of the great challenges that we need to wrestle with as people of faith. Wrestling with those ideas, again, is what our Advent readings are about today on this Friday of this first week on Francis Xavier's Memorial Day. Again, another division continues, the dream continues of God's, that God will make everything right, especially this dealing with humanity, where tyrants will basically change their ways. It's not about punishment, it's not about retributions again, it's not about hurt and harm that God comes to do, but God comes to change hearts, because that is what that's why God exists, is to change our hearts. Not to punish us, not to make us feel horrible about ourselves, even more horrible about ourselves, because it's feeling horrible about ourselves that causes us to do these actions that eventually hurt and harm one another and hurt this world in which we live. Because of all of this that God does, the world can be made new again. The world can be made fresh. The world can see itself in a new and more wonderful light than ever could imagine. These things may seem impossible, ridiculous, absurd for us, but nothing is ridiculous, impossible, or absurd for God. Advent is again the promise that God will fulfill God's promises, and it is the challenge and risk of us who dare to believe that God says that these things can be done and will be done. As we move into, we move from that first reading into Matthew's Gospel again, in which Jesus encounters two men who are blind, and he basically asks them, what do you want? Again, this wonderful question, again, that Jesus prompts. It is not Jesus who basically just comes in and does things. He needs to know what it is that we want in our lives. And the men basically want to see, and their faith that Jesus can do this is what makes them be able to see again, is what saves them. Again, if we have that kind of faith, that God can do what God says God will do, and that we can ask God for what it is that we want, what kind of world will we see? What kind of new tomorrow can we hold? What kind of hope can we give to this world? And may the Lord give you his peace.